Greetings to everyone from Bloomington and many other places from which we're connecting today. So happy to see more faces on our joint screen, shared screen. Just wanted to take a little time and remind everyone that you will have the opportunity to try your materials during the summer at IU Summer Language Workshop, and we welcome your participation. And we have 7 levels of Russian, so whichever level you like to work with, we have it here, and we will welcome you during June and July sessions. Also, at the end of this workshop, extended workshop, this extravaganza, we will have a day on Friday, April 23rd, for you to showcase your projects. And please let us know ahead of time if you would like to show your project and if you would like to be connected to the presenter of the topic that you are interested in, so that you can receive guidance and feedback on your work. With this, it is my great pleasure to present our new presenter, Olga Thomason from University of Georgia in Athens, who is also co-directs the newly formed Russian Flagship programs there. And she's a trained linguist who works in historical and comparative linguistics, and also, you can imagine, in pedagogy. She also teaches all levels of Russian and is an experienced instructor who also is brave enough to take her students abroad. So she directs the program abroad for University of Georgia. With this, Olga, please take over.
Thank you for introduction and for this wonderful opportunity to share my personal experiences with online instruction and my thoughts on the assessments and how dynamic assessment can be introduced into online teaching and instruction, and on the use of the 2 apps that I'm going to show you today, namely Extempore and VEO apps. The dynamic assessment, of course, is not a new thing, neither in sociology or linguistics. In the middle of the 20th century, Vygotsky headed the development, his research on tracing learners' intellectual development. And the wonderful thing, of course, that he proposed that in this theory of mental development, we have to focus on that something that he called zone of proximal development. What he was saying is that when we look at learners, most of the time we capture their ability that already formed. However, we fail to capture or somehow record the ability that are in the process of development. And that's what, of course, attracted linguists, and that's what attracted language instructors to this theory. Because all of us, I'm sure, are facing the same dilemma. It feels like when we create this assessment, and I'm sure that's how it feels to our language learners, that unless those abilities are completely formed, right, and the students can show their ability and manifest those abilities in the middle of those tests, we do not capture something which is still in progress. Something that may not be fully developed, but yet already shows some promise. And that's what Vygotsky was looking at. And he said that we really need to focus more on creation of those kind of assessments that capture that. And he said that we need to make this kind of assessments, or we will be successful in capturing those potential level of development, what he called, if we create more socially mediated assessments. Another thing he was talking about is that we need to view assessment not as the final sort of level where we capture results, but actually view it as another learning opportunity. And that's what actually attracts me to this theory. That's the first that I've heard when I heard it first. because I was striving in our intensive learning environment, be it a study abroad, be it an intensive program that our flagship students are part of, to create as many opportunities for learning for them as possible. So it's not that our assessment is a capstone, right? It's that level that the mark and do the high checks of their performance and the competencies that they achieved, but give them another chance to train, to practice, to drill, or showcase something that they've been working on. And another thing that attracts me to this theory is that Vygotsky and his colleagues clearly show that our learning, and especially when it comes to learning the language, is not a smooth and straightforward process. And that's what I've heard a lot from my students. And that's where they disappointment come, because they believe that once they start learning a language, the process is not a curve, right? It's a straight line that just goes up, 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 and then they expect this, their competency only improve. And they become really upset when they see that it is not that straightforward. And it's especially happening when we're working with learners on intermediate level, right? It's much easier for us to show our basic learners where they achieved and they feel it. But once they come to that intermediate level, they get extremely discouraged because they do not feel this development. And that was one of the questions that I was, one of the goals that I was struggling with the assessment. I wanted to show them what they learned and not only to show them where they need to develop, right? And also, once again, we need to remind them that yes, regressive moves are possible and we actually should expect them. And that's fine to have them, right? As long as in the longer run picture, we still show and record that progress. Of course, Vygotsky and his supporters were working on that long-term development, but Lentov and other researchers, linguists showed that we can talk about this microgeneric method where we can reorganize and build a dynamic assessment even for a relatively short period of time. This also makes sense. So I was applying this in my Russian 3911, which is, we call it a tutorial for professional Russian. This is a course that students take pre-capstone. It usually targets students that are at intermediate high level. Of course, some of them come with an intermediate mid. It still makes sense for them to make it. All of them are striving to achieve that advanced low at the least, right? In order to be able to go for that capstone year. It is a content-based course, covers several areas where our global future professionals would have to communicate using Russian. So we try to make it as applied as possible. It is module-based. We try to pinpoint what kind of professions that our students come, what kind of areas they come from. And usually, of course, for us, it's either international affairs, people in ecology, journalism, economics. Those are the most common ones that we find. Okay. And of course, to make it as applied as possible, we have to consult the guidelines that ACTFL gives us. You're all probably aware of this, but one more time, for us to go to that advanced low, that means that student needs to be able to narrate and describe in past, present, and future, right? And they need to deal with this unanticipated complications, right? So we need to create those complications for them, linguistic complications for them, and teach them how to come out of it. It's not necessarily that they will deal it in the way native speakers would, but they need to be successful in their communication. And when it comes to professions, once again, right, we expect them to communicate successfully on the level of schools, right, to be a teacher, or in some kind of medical area as a nurse would. So we'll look at this profession to try to make this course as applied as possible, try to pinpoint what kind of communicative situations the student would be involved when they come on that advanced low level. And that's where Extempore comes. So Extempore, of course, is a platform that specifically targets students' speaking and comprehension skills. I like it because it also has that mobile version and students enjoy it a lot. It makes it more versatile. It is really user-friendly, and it says a lot for me because I do not consider myself as the most sophisticated user, but it's pretty straightforward. It does have this unsophisticated learner in mind as a instructor, as a student, and it's really easy to integrate in the courses. What I also like about it, that it enables various levels of assessment control. You can make it as high stake task as possible or as low stake as possible. And that makes it especially important when you're talking about dynamic assessment, right? You can control it. And also it gives you several tools for that individualized and structured feedback. So once again, your feedback is tailored to this one particular submission, one particular student, and their particular program or process. And another thing that all of us will have to come up against is, of course, secure assessment. So many of us are worried, how is it that we control for that environment where that academic honesty and all the policies that deal with it are satisfied and our students are not tempted to use something, and we have that comfort of knowing that we are all in compliance with the rules. So when it comes to the course that I just mentioned, my goal was to create a sequence of tasks. In each task, we'll be working with something similar, but not the same, right? So we will have a module. In that module, we will discuss a topic in class, and then I will have a series of assessment built up on that module where students will be prompted to complete orally various tasks. And I will have a way to alternate either some kind of factors that help me assess this particular activity or time, or give them particular instructions, but all of that will be based on that one particular topic that we considered in class. So this one series of basically backbone of that sequence, I created this assessment in 3 stages. Right, so there will be some kind of text or some kind of video that we will be discussing in class. And then I will send student with the very first assessment based on whatever material we discussed. The very first assessment will be 5 questions that they will not know in advance, but I will use that extempore, and I will show you in a sec how I did it, and how we can do it. These questions are based on the content. Of course, students do not know them in advance. They will see it only in front of the screen from immediately before they have to complete this task. And my sentence would be that I will give them 30 seconds to prepare after they see the question. So they have to think a little bit. They have a chance to think a little bit about what it is that they want to say. And then I will also give them about a minute to answer each question. That's my first. Then in a day or 2, they will have a second stage of that assessment, once again, based on that same prompt, to be it a test or some kind of discussion we had. I will have another 5 questions, but this time they will hear them instead of seeing them. With the same setup, they will have 30 seconds to prep their answer. Right? They will have a chance to think about it and 1 minute to answer. And a third layer or assessment, once again, a day later or several days later, it just depends how your classes are set up, where instead of asking a question, I will have some kind of visual for them, maybe a picture or a small video, and I will give you this, but still on the same topic, right? So they have already a vocabulary built up, and they already had practice working with this and discussing this topic. I will give them a minute to prepare, and I will also give them several of questions to stimulate, right, and help them plan that answer. I will help them, I'll give them those helping questions in the written form, and this time I will ask them to give me that paragraph, right? And I will give them 3 minutes to answer that. So how does it look when it comes to particular topic? For example, one of our modules has to do with health and way of life, style of life people live. And one of the topics we discuss, we talk about stress and we talk about procrastination, right? How to plan your life and what procrastination means. We read an article in class and discuss it in class, and we discuss all particulars, right? And that's where students have a chance to drill the active vocabulary. We will help them with various constructions that they may come, and then they go for that first assessment. So for that first assessment, using that extempore, I will give them these 5 questions. They will see 1 question at a time. And this time, remember, they will see it in the written form. So what does a person do when they procrastinate? What are the reasons are there that people procrastinate? How do people feel when they procrastinate, right? Have you ever done it? Why, when? And what are the ways to deal with procrastination, right? How do you cope with it? What you can do to sort of improve your attitude, right? And deal with it, actually. So that's in the first level. Remember the second one, I will be given questions similar, but not the same, but this time in the oral form, right? So if you compare the first question in assessment 1 and the first question in assessment 2, you will see that I will basically ask them the same thing, only I slightly reword it, right? Instead of saying, what does the person do when they procrastinate? I'm asking you, what is procrastination? Right, but they simply, and it will be oral. And similar with the same, I will work with that assessment 1 as opposed to assessment 2, right? If you do compare a question 2 here, in the first case, I'm asking, what are the reasons that people procrastinate? In the second case, I'm asking, why does procrastination happen? Okay, so similar with the rest of these questions. And then you have a third level. In that third level, remember that you have a visual, so it could be a picture, it could be some kind of ad, it could be a short video on the same topic. And I ask them, of course, I give them short instructions saying the instructions will come in the written form. I'm asking them to look through it. Please tell me what happens to this girl, what's her problem, why do you think, what kind of problem is connected with this comics, and what would you advise to do in order to solve this problem. So once again, if you compare this 1, 2, and 3, they dealing with the same topic. They create prompts of the similar type, but not the same type. So now what's happening when we come to actual extempore. So if we'll go on site and just switch my screen, go on site. Of course, you can log in as a student and you can log in as an instructor. So I will just go and log in as an instructor. And basically, you just create a class, right? So you have 2 classes that I created for this just new one just to practice. I'm just going to say that this is Indiana University workshop. And that is it. You created a new class. And if you just go back to classes, you will see that it's showing up with a list. Okay. And that's just how simple it is. If you just click on it, it gives you a direct link to it that you can share with students, but you can also upload your students using the roster, right? Upload the roster. You will just basically create Excel where you will have a first name, last name, the email, and that password that you can just create for them or give them an opportunity to create it, and they will be uploaded into your assessment, into your class. And then you start creating assessments. So once again, very straightforward. You just click that plus on the assessment. You can name it whatever you need to name it. I will just say it's вопрос 1. You will create assessment timeline whenever you need for it to work, whenever the due time is. You can create a group assessments where several people are working on it at the same time. This time I need that is individual, right? And then we need to specify that students will answer it using audio or text or video. For hours, we need to use that audio. Okay, and right here in that assessment description, that's where I will say that you will see that you will see a question, right? You will have 30 seconds to think about it. You will have 1 minute to work on it. I want my students see grades when I publish them, because I want to, of course, grade them before they see it. I will provide this a numeric score because, yes, I do want to grade it. And I want to create rubrics so my students know exactly what I'm going to be grading them on. Usually my rubrics are vocabulary. We always have that active vocabulary that we work on. I create pronunciation, because no matter which level it is, there's always something to work with. Either it's going to be mispronunciation, or it's going to be stress problem, or assimilation, or that unstressed or usually is the problem. Of course, grammar. And last criteria I put as a complexity, because this is a level we're working on. So I want to put them not to be safe. And I want them to stimulate them, to put them so that they use consistently complex constructions. And like we work with, like category, like gerunds, like participles, something that we work in class, and I want them actively use it and not just restrain themselves to something that they feel safe in. So I want to reward them for it. And then, of course, in the end, I want to set up my limitations. So yes, I told them that I'm going to limit them. Time for review for each question is going to be 30 seconds, right? And yes, I want to limit the answer to this 1 minute. And then you have an option, right? You can allow them, you could be gracious and allow them to re-record so that they can submit several, pick the best answer that they want. I usually do no, because I do want to imitate this spontaneous conversation, right? I want them to have enough practice with this speaking on the spot, right? Where they have to create on the spot. And then the next one, you just add the question itself. Right, so our first question was, что делает человек, да, когда занимается прокрастинацией? So that's where the body of the test will go. Что делает человек, когда занимается прокрастинацией? I do not want to make it multiple choice questions. I just want to have as such to see it and then add it. And the question is updated in my media. You see that you have that first task with one question, but then you can add all the other questions that we have, right? So what do students see? Once you uploaded all these 5 questions, they will see that they have a task waiting for them. They will know where it is when it's due. And then they will just open it. They will see when it's due. They will see the question. And in that description right here, they will see that you will have a time to respond, 60 seconds. This question will only allow this one single attempt only. Are you ready to start? Right. So hopefully they say yes. Okay. And good thing about, remember I told you about that comfort with academic honesty. Right here, this app controls of any deviations when students go to that Google Translate or any other help that they may find, right? And you as instructor will be notified if such deviations happen and how many of such deviations happen. Okay, so this is a wonderful options that's built into this app. So you see that students have this 30 seconds, and then once the 30 seconds are done, they, of course, if they feel that they're ready to answer, they can just click record. But if they need this 30 seconds, they stand over there in thinking, okay? And then they give them the 3, 2, 1, они говорят, о, прокрастинация, не помню, что это, но, наверное, это когда кто-то что-то не делает, а может быть, должны что-то делать, но не делают, и так далее. So you see that the system is recording, and showing it as recording, and giving me my time so that I can see and plan it what I need to do. And they know that they need to continue speaking or humming or doing something or whatever to solve that problem that I created for them. They can, of course, stop recording, but then I will also see that they have not used all the time that was allotted for them. And I can tell them in that part of the complexity that they have not reached the goal, right? They need to work on actually speaking longer, right? And find the materials that they can discuss. But once they run out, they also tell you, congratulations, you're done. You can go back to activities, and it will take them to the next next question that they need. Now, once they submitted the questions, let me go back to that presentation, and I want to show you. So as an instructor, once they complete it, right, you can just go to that assessment and grading, and you will see that all the students that submitted, they'll tell you how many students you have in class, how many of them already submitted, how many you haven't answered, okay? You have an option of looking at one question at a time. I like looking at it as just one student submission at a time. Where if you just click on that student, they will tell you that here's вопрос 1, 2, 3, 4, right? All those questions. And what you see is an actual submission. So you see that this student actually used the whole minute. And the student was rather active, right? You have that visualization, because if they're not talking, you have that straight line. It's actually very useful also once you're grading, because it lets you to skip, right, meet all these pauses, and you can skip only to those parts that are which you actually need to look at and grade. And then you can just use this rubrics that you created, and it's up to you which kind of rubrics, of course, you create, right? And use this as a sliding scale where you can just show students what was successful, what was not as successful. And then you also have that option of creating a written commentary, audio or video, right? You can actually record yourself saying, speaking Russian or your target language, or you can provide a written version or English, where you can provide your commentary on that particular piece, right? And then just submit this, and you see that a system automatically, based on your rubrics, calculates the grade for every single question. That shows them which questions were answered more successfully than others, and also that overall score that they received for that particular assignment, that they will be able to see once you hit this published grades. Okay, and once you hit this published grade, this assignment and any kind of commentary that goes together with it will stay permanently into this and will compile into, so to speak, speech portfolio for a student, which is another good thing for students to have if they want to go back and check something, if they want to use the present and show somebody, demonstrate what is it that they're able to do, or just for their own purposes, right? If they want to review something, if they want to go back and see how they performed, if they want to evaluate the progress, if they have any kind of progress, or what kind of progress they have, or what kind of mistakes repeatedly out there, because they will see by the commentary, right? In commentary, I use usually, because I'm of course pretty concerned with all the grammar, and I want to make sure that I clear that grammar for them. I show them where the mistake was. I did not tell them how to fix this mistake in this case, right? So they can go back and check it, and then we can go over it together. This is also a good chance for them to do any kind of reviews. Okay, So that's extempore. And of course, on student evaluations, here's what they usually write. So it's wonderful that they themselves saying that this is a constant stream of reading and discussion. So they pick out on that dynamic assessment. And they appreciate this because they feel like they're given enough time to showcase this potential level of development and not just the end product that we all strive for. Of course, they not all of them enjoying it, just like they're not all of them enjoying speaking in public or being put in a position where they have to communicate on the spot. But even those of them that do not enjoy it, they appreciate it because you see that they say that it is extremely effective. They feel it. They actually receive a tangible feedback on which they can build up. And of course, and they also saying that they see that there is a variety, so that written versus oral versus visual, right, prompts create a variety of assessments, and they feel, I really appreciate when in evaluation, the students say, well, for me, it's something that it's very meaningful when students say it builds up, right? I feel the progress. I can see where I progressed. So I think this is something that really is happening, especially at that class, due to that extempore and usage, the way we use that extempore. Okay. And then there's a second app that I also used actively in this class, and that's that video tagging software. The reason why I like this video tagging, there's of course a lot of video tagging software out there, but the reason why I like this one, because once again, it's easy to use. It's very straightforward. I don't have to go through a special training to use it. And I can, I'm able to tag some kind of error or provide a comment at the exact precise time when that error happened. And I will show you how it looks. Another thing why I like about it, once again, it gives me all the freedom. I can create my own rubrics. I can create my own categories, whatever it is that I need to evaluate or feel like it's important for students on this level to be evaluated on. I can be as detailed or short on my feedback that I provide for students. I also like this because several people can use this app to tag one and the same audio submission or video submission. And it's a good tool for collaboration where students can collaborate on something and work with the same video or audio, or tutors and instructors can also collaborate. And in this way, one and the same submission receives several types of feedback, right? That's just tagged and commented on one and the same video submission. And also the statistic. Me as a linguist, I constantly want to be able to have that tangible data. And once again, to have another opportunity for students to go back to and see what exactly that they need to work on, where exactly they've fallen behind, what kind of progress they have, and how it is manifested. So for me, the text that I created, of course, I'm working with production, so we need the grammar, right? Various types of the mistakes that they make. I'm still working on the pronunciation, so at that level, students quite often mispronounce it, and that complicates the comprehension of this speech sample. Work with intonation, so they're not robotic. Still articulation of particular sounds, right? We're trying to get rid of all that orchania or lack of assimilation is there. I would like to pinpoint so that there's not that illusion. They feel like they are perfect and there's no any kind of accent where there is. And stress, of course, stress is something that remains be problematic on any level. And for us, since we are working with pushing them from that intermediate stage to that advanced at this level, right, I want them to have a variety of constructions. So I want to see those impersonal construction. I want to see various subordinate clauses, participials. If there is some kind of English calcs that they use, and I will pinpoint and show and help them see them and help them solve this problem, and problems with vocabulary. So either it's the wrong choice or some kind of errors with vocabulary they picked, or maybe something with a style, or since for any submission we will have any kind of oral submission, we also have a discussion. So any kind of lack of understanding of a question or inability to answer the question or comment, provide an argumented opinion, I will mark as a misunderstanding and also help them see it. So there's a student that was graciously agreed that I could share her submissions and show you what it looks like when you come to this app. I'm gonna go ahead and risk it and switch the app because I really want to show you what it looks like on this website, and I'm hoping that the system cooperates. Can you see the screen? Yes, perfect. So this time it's all straightforward. So once you log in into this link, right into this instruction, you will of course see all the videos or audios that are submitted. You can upload them yourself. Zoom videos that you have, students can upload me, and that will show up as videos shared with me because they can upload it, share it with you and say they are ready for, and we use that for any kind of submission for conferences or any kind of symposiums that students participate in and would like to see our feedback. But in our classroom, we have usually this task where students talk about news that they read, and they are instructed that their presentation should not be longer than 3 minutes, because we will spend another 3 minutes on discussing whatever it is that they said, talked about. And their task is to make this news piece as comprehensible as possible for their peers, okay? So they cannot just memorize whatever it is that they read about. They need to make it comprehensible and hit the most important point. So sometimes I also allow them to write up to 5 words that they believe that will be necessary for understanding. It just depends. It depends on the group. It depends what they believe that they need or they need themselves if they need it. So I told you that you can create your video tag. So you basically will go to administration part. And once you're there, you will see that there are tag sets that you can create. You can add a new tag set, right? And you just name it, create the categories that you want. Once you created this tag set, it will be posted for you as one of the options to select. So for example, here's the one that I selected for the previous year for my 3rd level. And we can just look at it. Remember, I told you about the categories that I used. So here it is. It will show up as grammar. You see phonetics. You can see syntax right here, right? And vocabulary. And if you can just click on view, it will show you the same subsets that you have, okay? The only minus here is that you really need to think through your tag set, because unfortunately this program does not allow you to go back and review it and change it. So you really need to think about all the rubrics that you want to pinpoint and one subsets that you need, because unfortunately you won't be able to revise. You'll just have to, if there's some kind of changes that you need, you'll have to create a completely new subset and then use it for your analysis. Okay. All right, and then, so what does it look like once you have a video submitted? When you have a video submitted, you basically would want to use a tag, right? It will have that add tagging, add a new tag session. You will just click on it and it will ask you, okay, which tag-in session you want. I will create this, pick the one that I created, right? And then I will just use it. I'm just gonna cancel it for the sake of time and go back to this video because it's already been tagged, right? And I want to review this tag. So once I share it with students, and I share it just simply by clicking on this icon before, and I can just type the name of my students, it will, and just pull it up and then share that video. And that student can view video and how it was tagged. So you see that already on the side, all those criteria that I used, you already see it. And the student can just look on an overall picture. They color code it, but they can also look at the notes. At the notes, I usually provide a correct answer, right? And the reason why I do it is because I instruct students, once the video is tagged, that they can view it two ways. They can either view it, and once they, let me just let you listen to it and see how students can see it first. So here it is.
Хорошо. 3 дня назад Россия и Республика Судан договорились о создании российской военно-морской базы.
Right, so you saw that the student was alerted right before that error happened. And in this version, it was alerted about the type of error they made, but not exactly what kind of error it was. If they wanted to see what kind of error it was, they could see it. They can simply click on that little box, the blue box.
Хорошо. 3 дня назад Россия и Республика Судан договорились о создании российской военно-морской.
Okay, and I can show a student exactly which is that OCAX, right? That's what we call it, where actually disregards that as stressed or that pronounces it as if it's stressed everywhere, which creates, of course, that accent. It's a quite common mistake, even for students on advanced level. Now, you see that you can mark not only minuses, right? That's what we tend to do, but also pluses, because I want to show students also those cases where they mastered something, right? Something that they achieved. And that's what they coded as pluses over here, right? For a participial construction, for example, or that subordinate clause structure that they have. And I told you that I also like this because it gives me statistics, and that's what you see it on the bottom, right? The statistics is based, of course, on the categories that we've created, right? For me, it was grammar, phonetics, syntax, and vocabulary. And I can show students, I can get rid of that positive and just show which zones were most problematic, okay? And they could see it overall. And which, right, were successful. What was reached successfully. Okay, and once again, they can always go back and look what type of problems they had, because I suggest them the errors. So the way they can review the video is either deduce what errors and try to correct them themselves, or they can automatically will go and look what kind of correction it is, or they can deduce and then look, right? It's all up to you. It gives them a lot of freedom of working and reworking the videos. And also, once again, the system allows them to save all the videos together with commentary. I can, of course, add to this additional commentary that will not be tagged in one particular time of that video or audio submission, but overall, where I can praise them or tell them to work on some kind of particular category that will then further improve their performance and suggest topics for review, okay? And they can do that and follow through with it. And once again, it stays with them. So it creates this performance portfolio for them. And they can, if they're gonna go back to the statistics, right? They can see which area needs improvement and whether they had this improvement. Because even though they may change topics from one to another, structurally, grammatically, and also on the level of pronunciation, they will see whether they fix those errors or not. If they haven't, the statistic will show them, right? And once again, they can always, no matter which video they will look, they will see what kind of problem they had, right? If it was articulation, if I keep writing to them unstressed or, that's it. It means that they did not take care of that and they really need to work on it. Then, of course, we can further go into that hit it on with tutor somewhere, or we can talk about in a personal meeting, right? If there's something that they did not understand. If they just have a variety of it, then they know that it is not a categorical error. It means it's something that a particular word caused this error, right? And once they take care of that, there should not be a problem. So it gives a lot of freedom and it gives a lot of power to students. And they can control the level of involvement, level of engagement, and also create enough tangible data for them that they can fall back on, and they do not come to me to this office hours completely lost. And this question that you can often hear, what is it that I am struggling with? Where they don't even know what it is that they're struggling with, or where they come with the concern saying, I don't feel like I'm improving, right? So that's another concern I hear quite a lot. And when you give all this data for them, then they know already where exactly they need to go, what exactly they need to work with, right? And what kind of questions to ask, right? Because if I keep asking them to review тоже так же, and they do not know it, then they will already become prepared for that session with a tutor or session with an instructor, and they will know exactly what it is that they need to review, because this is something that comes up over and over again, and it is already a pattern of error and not just some kind of random error that they encounter. So I think at this point, I will stop with the presentation, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Okay, actually, yes, I have a question. I was really, thank you, Olga, for such informative presentation, walking us through how to use those apps. I was really fascinated with the idea of the student-driven course, the tutorial for professionals. And my idea is, again, I'm fascinated how it's all, if I understand correctly, it's all tailored to what student needs. So, but do you generate then modules like as the class goes? Because, or do you know exactly who is coming? So like how front loaded, I guess.
Yeah, so it is front loaded a lot. We treat it in a way that we know what our students are a little bit, because these are our flagship students. They've been with us. It's not the first year that we know them, not the first semester. So we approximately know what their background is. We cannot predict 100%, but we can see beforehand where majority is at least. Right, so there's a student that's already been with us on the third level of courses. We know that they will come, right, because we have those individualized plans with them. So in a way we can calculate which areas will be more in demand than others. And based on that, we can create those modules. Right, so if I have a lot of students in my third level, for example, this year in spring, usually we teach this course in the fall, right? So right now, I know that I don't have anybody in ecology, right? So I will not reuse this module probably, but I have a lot of students in international affairs. So I know that the module on politics and international diplomacy will be in need for the students. So that's the one that I will promote. We are a new program. So I've taught this class we taught it for 2 years, okay? And we do derive it based on the majority that we have. We have a second module in spring, so that's like a continuation of this professional development, where we try to pick out areas that did not receive that attention. And if there's some kind of new students, or maybe they will in the review say, oh, that was wonderful, but I would really like to discuss this particular topic, right? And that gives us food for our next semester, and we know what to activate. But we do have that store bank, which we continuously update, and we plan to review based on the body of students.
Fascinating.
We have Elena Satarova, if I'm correct, if it wasn't just applauds. Elena, did you have a question?
Well, I didn't. I just applauded, but I do have a question now. I can ask a question, actually.
Go ahead.
So I am interested in how, like, I can see how extempore could be used in like at different levels. So like I'm thinking of intermediate Russian, I think that would be perfect. But for the second one, I worry that like for lower level language classes, we might end up in a situation if we constantly use tags, like where it's just almost like every second we have a tag, not every second, but you know, the mistakes are just a lot more frequent, I guess, at those levels. So would you recommend, I guess, for those, in those situations to just stick to the cumulative feedback at the end, or like, do you have a strategy for going about that at lower level language classes?
I think for lower level, I would start by changing the task, make it more appropriate for their level, right? For say, if you were talking about elementary level where they need to create lists, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So for example, I will just, instead of asking them to retell something or talk about something, and it would make it easier for instructors also, because it would be much easier to evaluate, just say, look around you, what you see, right? Name objects, at least 5 or 10, it just depends where you are, right, with your vocabulary. So you can use it for vocabulary buildup. See what you can name, right? At least 10 objects that you see, or look out of the window. Or if you're studying colors, right, I would make it more channeled to what they study. And that will eliminate a lot of mistakes, because you would give them, and I would give them also an example, right? You will give them a prop. So I would say, look around you, you studied colors, right? What is blue? So, for example, да, эта книга синего цвета, или эта книга синяя. It just depends what kind of construction you learned with them, okay? And give them this example, right? And then what you can use it as for drill, right? Because what they're going to say is, эта ручка синяя, эта, не знаю, книга желтая, эта стена красная, и так далее, right? So I would just change the task altogether, and in this way eliminate a lot of errors, and do provide, you need to do scaffolding, of course. You need to provide the example and not make it too complex for them so that they just drown in it. But the task needs to be manageable for the level.
Yeah, no, thank you. That makes perfect sense. I was just, I guess I got the impression that for the second one, it requires longer kind of chunks of speech, and that's.
It doesn't. It's all up to you, and that's what the beauty of this, right? They can create whatever it is you ask, right? Mm-hmm. This was a part of our actual class, right? So they know that it's going to be about 3 minutes of their presentation, 3 minutes of the discussion, right? But if it's intermediate level, right, you can ask them to submit some kind of video that basically, and you will tell them, right, it's going to be 1 minute video where you will tell me how many objects surround you, right? Or what kind of objects surround you, or what you did today, right? Just depends what it is, your target, okay? And as long it is, or how short it is up to you as an instructor when you set up your rubrics, and it's of course up to students when they create those videos and submit them.
Okay, thank you.
Tatiana and I have shared question. Do those apps come free?
So they do have trials, of course, both of them come free. Unfortunately, they do not come free. I know that for the VEO is quite expensive because they all target not only academia, but also business, right? So I know that you have to have a subscription with them, and that one is pricey. I think it's about $500 per organization. Extempore is cheaper. The way they do it is you have to pay. I know that last time when we paid for subscription for a year and for 50 students to use it, so it's no cost to students, we paid about $400 for a year. Now, of course, since Flagship allows us to have this technical support, we benefit from it.
And the VEO, you said, is more expensive, and that's...
VEO is more expensive because they target not only academia, but also business enterprise, where communication is important. So it's like $500 for a subscription for the organization. And then I think they also charge per user, right? And you can build it up where students pay it or where your organization pays. I think the way we set it up.
Okay, thank you.
And for those of you who are trying to say, just
we have Isolde raising hand.
I'm sorry?
We have Isolde with a question.
Oh.
Yeah, if you let me just ask the question about the level of anxiety, maybe you can give some advice how to instruct students before they start working with these apps, because I noticed that the level of their anxiety significantly increased since we moved to online, like remote teaching. And maybe the first part of question is related to your previous experience of using those apps. Did you use them last year before pandemic started? And like, did you notice that maybe their reactions or evaluation forms were different? And also, like, yeah, mostly about instruction. So because I know I use Flipgrid, and sometimes I give them limited times to accomplish the task. And they, well, I had a few students who cried because they didn't have enough time to give their response. So like, yeah, I really appreciate any advice.
So the beauty of Extempore that it gives complete freedom to an instructor. Right? You can make it as low stake as possible, right? You can tell them that you're gonna have a practice round with it on some first module, for example, about how you're gonna build on it, and you're not gonna grade it at all, and get them time to get used to it. Yes, the system will grade it and they will know it just for the information purposes, but you're not gonna calculate that grade. Second way to ease the anxiety is that you can allow them to re-record. Right, so instead of limiting just that they can submit only once, you could say you can record as many times as possible. You don't like it, sit with it, and students do. They spend way more time on it than I would anticipate. It does ease their anxiety. Now, of course, you still have, those that write that I'm not enjoying it, and they do tell that they don't enjoy it, but they do get used to the pain. In some ways, both. I used Extempore only this year. I used VEO even before that, before the pandemic. In both cases, students say that, of course, anxiety is there, but it's lessened, and they feel much better prepared for any kind of symposium presentation that they have to make, or to be on those interviews that are quite mandatory and recurrent for our flagship students. And they feel that they are already able to perform, and maybe not to the 100% better, but to some degree, they are used to the setting where they are required to act on the spot, and where they cannot predict completely what the variety of questions is going to come. Because the build up with the dynamic assessment, of course, there's the sequence that I build up, they sort of know the area and where it comes, but then eventually, right, we cut that lines of support where they have to deal with completely unanticipated situations, right? And that this way you are, as instructors, allowed to control the level of support that you give and the level of support that you take away, and make it gradually.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Well, we don't have more questions and we're already 3 minutes above our time. So thank you, Olga, for wonderful and engaging talk.
Thank
It
you
was
very
really
much.
interesting. Yes, there's always something to learn. And thank you for the participants for their questions and interest. And we'll see you all in an hour.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.